Welcome to What's Your Forte, presented by Bandology.
Welcome to the 6th episode of What's Your Forte. Today, we have David Lum, who's a graduate of the University of Toronto and completed a graduate diploma program in wind conducting at the University of Calgary. He is a past conductor of the Scarborough School's Symphonic Band and Wind Symphony. He served as the conductor of the North Ontario Music Festival Honor Band from 2008 to 2011, and is the past conductor of the Toronto Youth Concert Winds and the assistant conductor of the Toronto Youth Wind Orchestra. In June of 2016, David was featured as the guest conductor of the Toronto Youth Wind Orchestra's 25th anniversary tour of New York City, culminating in a performance at Carnegie Hall. David also served on the board of the Ontario Music Educators Association, also known as OMEA, from 2000 to 2015. He initiated the creation of the Awards and Scholarships Committee and chaired the committee since its inception in 2004 to 2014. David is the past president of the Ontario Band Association. We had a lovely discussion about his experiences and musical journey and what the future of music education might look like. So without further ado, here's the interview with Dave Lum. Okay, so first, can you briefly describe yourself and your current positions or projects that you're involved in?
Sure. Currently, until August, I am what's called an assistant curriculum leader of music at Agincourt Collegiate. So back in the day when I was in high school, the schools had what are called department heads. Those positions were responsible for overseeing almost everything in the department. Over the last, I guess since my teaching career started, that position sort of morphed into what's now called curriculum leadership or assistant curriculum leadership. So basically, curriculum leader deals mostly with curriculum issues within the department, teaching of material, how to deliver the material, things like that. And then background related like scheduling and teacher load and things like that. So it's a title that has many meanings. Until August, that's my position. And until August, because I didn't reapply for my job, I've been in a leadership position at Agincourt for 20 years. And it was time for some transition to happen. And I thought this would be a good moment since they were reapplying for everyone's jobs. I thought this might be a chance for someone else in the department to take on that role. Other than that, I'm like everyone else, I'm getting ready to adjust for a new horizon in September in school. So we're trying to adjust to that, what that might look like. As well, you may know I teach at York University as well. I teach tuba in the euphonium studio. And next year, Professor Thomas is on a year sabbatical, and I'll be covering the Wind Symphony at the school. And I'll have a doctoral student, Pratik Gandhi, who's beginning his PhD studies. And we'll be running the Wind Symphony next year. So we're also trying to figure out what that's going to look like in the new age of music and music education. That's going to keep me busy as well. And looking at getting back on the board of the Toronto Youth Wind Orchestra, that was an organization I've been with, conducted groups and as a member of the ensemble. And it just seemed like it might be a good time for me to dive back in there. So other than that, I'm just hanging out at home.
And so can you bring us back to your musical beginnings? What drew you to pick up an instrument for the first time? Was it the tuba or euphonium? Like, what drew you to music?
Well, the actual very first instrument I ever played, I guess if we're thinking technically, it's either the recorder or the piano. It's kind of a toss-up. My mother was a piano player. She got her grade 10 in piano, and she encouraged my sister and I to play. You know, we had a piano in the house. Having it there was a real treat. Piano when we were in school, recorder early on, and I remember playing some organ instruments as well. But really, the piano was the one that kind of sticks out. And I was 9 or 10, maybe, when I started piano. Maybe earlier. First band instrument I played was in grade 7. I tried and failed on the trumpet and ended up taking clarinet and playing a little bit of alto sax in middle school. And then when I got to high school, they were in need of tuba players. And so they asked, I just tried the tuba. That sort of stuck with me. I got good at it. I just kept going. The ironic part is when I was in grade 5, grade 6, my music teacher asked me to play the tuba, and I declined because I just didn't want to carry the tuba. And the funny part was I literally lived one long city block away from the school, so I could have done it. I just didn't do it. But I often think, what would have happened had I started 3 years earlier? You know, what I might be doing now. So interesting how teachers see things in us that we don't really see in ourselves right away.
And then what took you into wanting to pursue it as a career and studying it at the post-secondary level?
When I was getting to that point in high school and we had to sort of choose what we might study at university, so I started to think, well, what were my skills and what do I like to do? What was I successful at? What were my personal skills and what would sort of fit my personality? And I thought, well, I like people. Maybe I could teach. And so I thought, okay, I could study. I found out I could study music and study music education. And I ended up applying at Western and Queens and Oregon and U of T. All the schools wanted to up there, so that was good. And that summer, I happened to be part of the Ontario Youth Concert Band. The previous summer, I had traveled to Europe with the band, and there was a work program by the Ontario government, and they reformed the Ontario Youth Concert Band to tour Ontario for a couple of months. So that gave me the opportunity to go to. We were basically housed at different universities while we were in certain cities. And unbeknownst to me, as we were touring around, my mom did some research. So happened that one of her best friends worked in the office of the registrar. She basically got me a late audition and a late entrance. So I did the audition. The audition went well. I did my audition on the Monday, and I got an acceptance letter on Friday. That's kind of how I ended up where I am now.
Could you briefly describe the role of an Ontario certified music teacher and what someone has to do to become one?
Sure. So basically, the short answer is you need to get an undergraduate degree, and then you need to go into a pre-service program. But it's changed a lot. So when I started, you would go into your undergraduate program, then apply for what used to be called Teachers College, and then it becomes Faculty of Education. And basically, you were going to get certified in an area of curriculum that you would teach. Depending on the age group you wanted to teach, you had to have different qualifications. There are basically three age groups that you can enter into: primary, elementary, junior, intermediate, senior. If you're applying for intermediate senior, you had to have a specific area of study, music, for instance, and you had to have a second teaching as well. There are a number of different ways you can get at teaching what you want to teach, but the long and the short of it is you need to go and do your degree and then take your next steps from there, whatever the next steps is. The different variations are. You can do concurrent education, which is another choice. So in your third year, you apply to start your education degree during your fourth year, and then you're doing a hybrid degree for a fourth year, and then you have your extra year. So concurrent just eliminates a year, basically. Some of the qualifications and the guidelines vary from school to school, but the basic structure is you do undergraduate, then you do the next step. The non-institutional side of things is go out and do it. Go out and volunteer, go and spend time. Before you dive in, you need to get your feet wet to find out where your strengths might be in the classroom. So there's an institutional path, and then there's the non-institutional path, which I think at some point come together to make the best way to go if you want to teach.
And so we've reached the halfway point, which is what we call the Fast 5 rapid round. So it's 5 questions. The first thing that comes to your head is your answer. All right, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, number 1, favorite concert you attended?
My very first favorite concert was I went to the Canadian Brass at Massey Hall, and I sat on the aisle, and they did their classic "Closer Walk with Me" entrance, and Chuck Dellenbach walked right by me. My second favorite concert was Old York University. Maynard Ferguson band played there, and they were doing "Hey Jude," and the trombone player walked right past my head, and I felt my head was going to explode. But those are two that I remember for sure.
Amazing. Musical inspirations growing up?
Well, I can remember very early on hearing my mom play. She loved Chopin, and I can remember my mom playing Chopin. That was always a cool thing.
Next one is favorite movie soundtrack.
Well, for many reasons, Star Wars, that's an easy one.
An instrument that you wish you played?
Okay, well, there are a couple. I wish I could play guitar. I really like the ability just to pick it up and go somewhere and play. I wish I played piano better. I love to get on the drums when I need to with the band at school. I'm just not very good. I'd like to be able to do that better. But I think I'd like to.
And last one, do you have any hidden talents?
Well, subjective, I suppose. I have the innate ability to remember names. I guess one of my not hidden talents that many of you wouldn't know about is I'm an avid golfer, and I can hit my wedge. You choose a distance, I can pretty much hit that wedge anywhere inside 100 yards within a couple of yards, I think.
That's really amazing.
Bandology is a proud Canadian nonprofit dedicated to more music for more kids via education, collaboration, and community. Find out more at bandology.ca.
The next question is, how are 21st century skills used in a music teacher's career? So that involves critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. So how are those 4 things involved in a music teacher's career?
So the skills that you mentioned here are now commonly known as 21st century skills. How are you going to take the skills that you learned in school and apply them to real life? If you don't have at least a couple of those in your toolkit, it's going to be very difficult to be an effective teacher and maintain a career. Now, I cannot at any time in my career think where I've had all 4 of those in any plentiful amount, in any sustainable, ongoing fashion. Depending on what the situation requires, I might need to engage more of my critical thinking skills at this point. I need to be creative here. There might be a situation where I need to go into a different level of communication and be more in depth with a student. It really is, you just need to have all of those at your fingertips and then be able to access them when the time is right. I truly believe that those skills, while they're important, I think it's how you use them more than actually having them. If that makes any sense. Anything that is authentic of you and who you are and how you teach, that's going to be the most effective. If they happen to be one of the 21st century skills, great. If not, I think it's more important that the student feels that you're being authentic with them.
So my next question is, what's the highlight of your career?
This sort of gets to why we teach. And it's like, the year we finally won Best in Class of Chorus. We were on the stage of the Ford Center and all these great performances. That was great. Performed on the stage of Roy Thompson Hall and played fantastic music, and we played at the provincial legislature. Those performances will always stick in my mind. I had the opportunity to go and personally perform with Taiwo at Carnegie Hall, and that was spectacular. But when I think back in my life and my career, I think of moments like I've had students who have achieved personal success, which I'm very proud of, and I feel like I've had a small part in their growth. Seeing Brendan Connolly, who I'm sure you know, with dual percussion. Brendan was a student of mine, and my wife and I, our first date was at his final concert with the National Youth Orchestra. It's pretty significant. And I looked down, and he's wearing the Agincourt Collegiate honor pin that we give all our graduates. This is the pin I was talking about. We give one of these to all our graduates. Seeing another former student, I cannot claim any of his talent, but seeing Robert Conker play with the Hannaford Silver Band, and Alain Trudel saying he's the Wayne Gretzky of the trombone, like that's special. One of my very special students, a good friend of mine, she actually sang at my wedding. She invited me to go to the ceremony when she was called to the bar a few years ago. She was called to the bar at Roy Thompson Hall. And it was a different experience, but it was so proud of the work she had done, just knowing what she'd gone through to get there. And fantastic musician. She did a degree in music at Western, and then she did a master's, and then she went to Queens for law school. And now she's in one of the largest firms in North America. She's done really well for herself. And many other students early in my career at Agincourt are doctors and lawyers. But I keep telling my colleagues, one of these kids, this is the year. There's going to be a graduate from this class, and they're going to cure cancer, or they're going to, split the atom a third time, or whatever. It's pretty inspiring. It's one of those things where you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. And I think more of those moments that sit with me, despite all the work we do towards a performance. I feel like those moments sit with me stronger just because they're unexpected and they're great surprises. When I look back, those are things that I'll remember. I'll remember the other things too, but I'll remember that. The other aspect of it is, for many years I sat on the board of the OMEA, and I started the Awards and Scholarship Program. I think Brennan was one of our first high school scholarship recipients as well. But to see the number of people we've awarded scholarships to and to see where they are now teaching, being successful in their own right, is it's very rewarding. Kate Nishimura won the high school scholarship from me as well. And look what she's doing now. She's just a fantastic composer and wonderful musician and person. So, things like that are really, really pretty significant.
Why is music education important to you?
I think music education speaks to being able to express yourself. If you're not a good speaker, if you're not an artist, if you're not a visual artist, if you're not an outgoing personality, sometimes I think music can really help you open a space in your heart and in your mind that may not be engaged by other subject areas, even other subject areas in the arts. It just gives you another chance to be the person that you are. In most cases, it gives you a chance to become part of a community of like-minded people. It gives you a safe space to express yourself as well. Having a place like that is really important. And I think the arts provide that. Music education specifically provides that as a community feeling that really does help people grow.
How do you see your career changing in the future?
Well, I think that music teachers in general are problem solvers. And I think we're going to need to engage that part of our thought process even more in the next, I would say, 5 years. Certainly over the last 4 months, all of us, students, teachers, parents alike, have had to adjust to a situation that's out of our control. And many of us are, by the nature of what we do, we like to have control of things. And we have to get comfortable not having control. I think we need to become more adaptable and more flexible and just be ready for any eventuality. Specifically for this fall, we need to look at being able to deliver music. We might not be able to deliver bands the way we're used to, but there are still certain core parts of teaching music that you can do without a band instrument in your hand. And I think this is what I think about. And it's hard for me. I've done this all my life, so it's going to be a real challenge. But technology will be a piece of it. How you deliver musical elements will be important. How do you engage the students who learn through experience as well? Because you're not going to be able to be face to face and explain everything to them all the time. You're going to need to trust the student to do the work and to hopefully follow the path that you've set out for them in the work that you leave for them. But I think a lot of it is going to be, we're going to have to learn to give up the reins of control. And we're going to have to trust the students to A, to do the work, and to B, understand the consequences of not doing it. And that might be more significant now than ever. For instance, the rehearsal, if that clarinet player doesn't learn the solo, I could say, well, we need to learn the solo. But there's a certain value to that student learning it on their own, or not learning it on their own, and then figuring out how to learn it. You know what I mean? We're going to be there to encourage them all the time, but sometimes the face-to-face emphasis that we give to students on learning certain things, that pushes them along. And I think some students, they'll benefit from being left on their own, to find a way to encourage themselves to learn certain aspects of playing technique or whatever it might be. But I think this is something for teachers, we're going to have to get used to giving up control and putting it in the hands of the students, saying, well, okay, here's what it is. Now, having said that we don't absolve responsibility. That actually means we have to be more in tune with what needs to be taught. Because once we give the instructions, we don't see what happens. If we haven't given clear instruction and done it in a couple of different ways, then we're likely to lose some students because they're not going to understand right away. And we won't be there to pick up the pieces. In a 70-minute period, you can look at a kid and in 5 minutes say, okay, Jimmy, that's not quite it. We need to do that. So we need to preempt that happening and sort of plan for any eventuality. So when we do leave what's going to be called asynchronous material on a Google Classroom or whatever for the students to go to, it's much more clear. In music, we're not necessarily geared that way because we're used to seeing the kids face to face. Quite often we give them instructions we'll work on things, and then sometimes we spend time putting out fires, what we like to call putting out fires with ourselves. There are other subjects where I think what's coming up might lend itself more to this. I've had math in the last year, and I feel like that's an area where my colleagues have developed videos that go up on our platform, and if kids have problems, they can refer back to it, and they can refer back and they can actually go through and mechanically work through a question looking at the video, which is, I think, really advantageous. Kids who get left behind in the class. I tend to speak really quickly sometimes, and I get excited about stuff, as you can see now. And I have to double back with some students. This might allow some students to work a little more at their own pace. And it might help to solidify concepts and the process for solving an equation or for solving a problem. So I think that the big picture is we're going to have to be able to give up some control and be really ready to do that.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. I'm wondering what's next for you.
Well, I mean, I'm at the point in my career where I can look at I'm within the reach of retiring from the Toronto District School Board, that part of my career, and I think I'm looking forward to that. It's a little scary because one of the things teachers have, if you're in a contract and you're in a school for a number of years, you have the assurity of going back to roughly the same space. You go back to your desk, you know where stuff is. I think the unknown of what's ahead in terms of what retirement might bring is exciting and scary. I know that I will have some opportunities to work with students. Hopefully I'll be able to do some adjudicating, like to get out to work with groups some more. I'm an educational clinician with Con Selmer, so I'm hoping that will bring about opportunities as well. I'll still be teaching at York, so that is, I don't know what that's going to bring because it changes year to year, but that's exciting. So one part of my professional life may come to an end, but the next step is going to keep going, and there's a lot of exciting moments and kind of scary moments too that are coming up. But yeah, after the fall, we'll see what happens. But in the not too distant future, is the first thing is I could retire from the TDSB in the next couple of years. So that would be the first big decision. Then after that, they say the world opens up after that. Most of my colleagues say that I'll be busier in retirement than which I think might be possible.
That sounds very exciting, though. There's definitely some options once schedules open up and stuff like that. That wraps up this episode, actually. And let's say someone was really interested in maybe following up with some questions, or they want to get in touch with you for anything.
My TDSB email address should be fine. It's david.lum@tdsb.on.ca. And that's my school address, and I'll have that at least for another year. And then once you get in touch with me, if we need to be in contact more, I'll give you my personal address. And I'm happy to meet with people, via Zoom or whatever, and talk to them face to face. If not for a coffee, once all this madness ends.
Yeah, that's great. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to chat and impart your wisdom and your experiences for the listeners and for myself.
Be well, be safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, wear a mask.
All right, that's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
So I want to say thank you again to Dave Lum for being a guest on this week's episode of What's Your Forte. If you want to stay up to date on all What's Your Forte episodes, you can follow us on your favorite podcasting platform or subscribe to us on YouTube. Once again, I'm your host, Megan Harden, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on What's Your Forte, presented by Bandology. If you liked what you heard, you can find out more about this series and our organization at bandology.ca, which features information about research, advocacy, and music education, and our band camp and play a gig programs. Follow us on social media for more videos and performances on Instagram and Facebook.